Before My Heart Gives Out by Kira 18 on AO3. Chapter 11. Trouble Will Always Find You. Rain rushes at his face. The cold air hits his skin, sending thrills down his spine. The breeze whistles in his ears as he rushes down the streets of Masutafu's slums. The crime rate has gone up as of late. He's only been off the radar for a few weeks, and the villains have already taken it as a green light for their less than savory actions. Today was his first day back on the job. Recovered in both mind and body, Shadow was out and hitting the streets again. He needed to show the people that rumors of his death were greatly exaggerated. Unfortunately, his patrol happened to coincide with UA Sports Festival. He remembers the resigning acceptance in Shinsou's voice when he told him he couldn't go. More specifically, he remembers the underlying disappointment in his friend's tone. However, it's not as if he could actually watch the torment after all. With all the people and noise, it would be like trying to decipher static in a lost radio station. Even hearing the show on television wouldn't make up for his lack of sight. Therefore, Izuku found himself using the sports festival as a distraction. Most of the heroes would be attending, so he'd have free gain over most of the streets. Still, this was also the case for villains. It was going to be a long night. The first incident he encountered were mostly petty crimes. An armed robbery that was quickly handled, followed by a petty car thief he'd caught red-handed. The man was trying to open the door to a parked station in the middle of the day with a crowbar. Criminals weren't always masterminds, it seemed. Nonetheless, Shadow made sure to stop them and turn them in, leaving a small note for his favorite detective to find. The man probably thought he was dead, given the absence as of late, although maybe he hadn't even noticed. Who knows? Running across the rooftop once more, he decided to change his usual patrol role. Less heroes meant the slums weren't the only places villains took over. Not really knowing the name of the district he was patrolling, he recognized the layout. He got to work. One by one, he went over the alleys of the area. The darkness surrounding them provided a perfect cover for any criminal activity. Naturally, when you go out looking for trouble, it has a funny way of finding you. It went like this. The sky was rapidly losing its light, the darkness of the night swiftly taking over the streets. Not that it changed anything for Izuku. The benefit of his blindness was the way he thrived in the shadows. It's fitting, really, the name that people chose to call him by irony, even. He currently passing a lone alley when he hears it, the sound of a scuffle reaching his ears. 2 heartbeats. One is calm and collected, sound steady and rhythm against his ear, yet the other one is frantic, beating fast and wild. Izuku has come to learn one thing in his time in the field. It's usually the calm ones that are the most dangerous. Slowly creeping into the passage, he perches himself soundly on a fire escape nearby, making sure to settle for his eyes on the 2 figures in front of him. There aren't many sound waves being generated, but there's enough for him to make out the positions of each individual. He feels his own heart rate pick up as he realizes what exactly he's dealing with. There's a weirdly shaped man lying on the ground, body still and motionless. If not for the frantic heartbeat, Izuku would have thought he was dead. On a closer inspection, it seems the man is wearing armor, a hero most likely, from the smell of copper in the air. The man was bleeding badly. What makes him pause is the man's apparent opponent. The calmness of his heart bitterly betrays the imitating aura he emits as he towers over the fallen figure. There's sharp weapons in his hands, a sword, Izuku concludes. His scarf sways with the wind as he speaks, voice low and threatening. You're nothing but a fake, Ingenium, unworthy of calling yourself a hero. The villain says. Shadow is instantly reminded of the news reports he's heard a couple of days ago. The hero killer stain, quirk unknown, weakness unknown. When you go looking for trouble, it ends up finding you. Getting out his phone, he dials a number he's been avoiding. He waits 30 seconds, and then hangs up. Naomasa should know who exactly is calling. The detective left him this number personally, telling him to call if he ever found himself in a particularly bad situation. He'd never used it before tonight. not wanting anyone to trace his location, always enlightening to do things alone. However, this hero's life rested in the balance. He'd rather call for backup. Stain had already taken down many pro-heroes. A teenage vigilante wasn't exactly a threat to the man. His strength alone wasn't going to cut it this time. Besides, Shinsou did tell him to be careful. I'll cleanse this society from the likes of you, even if I have to kill you with my own hands. Stain continues, hands rising with every word, sword gleaming in the sky as he prepares himself to strike. As he readies himself to plunge the weapon down onto the hero's unprotected back, Shadow doesn't give him another chance, though. The element of surprise is in his favor, so he goes for it. No clear plan in mind. Only one thought plagues his mind as he moves. No one was going to die tonight. He climbs a fire escape, feet running soundlessly until he's right above the two figures. Finding an opening he needs, he jumps. It happens so fast, the hero killer doesn't get to react in time. Shadow's feet hit the man's back with a hard thud, sending the villain tumbling onto the ground. Sword discarded a couple of meters ahead of him. Taking the momentary distraction in his favor, he gets hold of the hero's fallen body and drags him until he's a good distance away from his attacker. He has a deep, gushing cut through his side. Otherwise, he's not fatally injured. Izuku does take the time to press some gauzes into the wound anyways. Better safe than sorry. It's okay. I called the cops. They should be on their way. He whispers, not knowing if the man could hear him. Grimly, he realizes that he won't be able to take him and run. With the man's added weight, he'll be too slow. Stain would catch up in an instant. Therefore, there was only one option left. Fight. Fight long enough for backup to arrive. Stall for time and hope that it's enough. The hero killer falls with grace. It speaks of experience and practice. Instantly, the man regains his balance and turns to face his new opponent. If he's surprised to see him, he masks it well. You're that vigilante, he states, eyes scanning the alley as if he was expecting someone else. Probably someone with a hero license. This doesn't concern you. Just walk away and I won't kill you. His voice is low, a tinge of annoyance. Coasts his every word. I won't let you do this, Stain. Despite his agulating heart, his voice is steady, unwavering as he continues. Your days killing are over. I won't let you hurt anyone else. Do you think you could stop me? The man snarls. You're not even a hero. What makes you any different than I am? You're just another criminal in their eyes. That's it, isn't it? You keep talking about fake heroes. You speak about purging our society from all the pretenders, but what you don't realize is one very important thing, hero killer. Izuku doesn't know why he's telling the villain all of this. However, he finds the words spilling from his mouth nonetheless. I don't need a license to call myself a hero. As long as I do everything in my power to protect people, as long as I give it my all, I will never turn my back to those in need. That's what it means to be a hero. He finds himself shouting, raw and sincere emotions crawling to the surface of his mind as he speaks. It doesn't matter if the heroes today want money or fame in return. As long as they fight and protect, that's all that matters. As long as they never put their own gain above the safety of others. The last thing he expects at the end of his speech was to detect some sort of grin forming on the killer in front of him. He hears the man's breath hitch in his throat, feels his whole demeanor change. I'm impressed, Shadow, the man says after a moment. I might just let you live. Whatever hope he has that the villain will go down easily shatters a second later. Him, on the other hand, I won't. He growls menacingly, head turning to the limp body behind Shadow. Then you'll have to go through me. He responds with just as much intensity, knowing that whatever hope he had at an easy fight was just wishful thinking. You don't have to do this. Run. For the first time since Izuku joined the scene, Ingenium speaks. His voice wavers as he shouts, desperate evidence in his tone. You're just a kid, he's gonna kill you. Izuku really needs to buy a new voice modulator soon. Ignoring the hero's plea, Izuku charges at the villain. taking out his 2 Esmero rods. In the process, he blocks the aimed sword at his arm, quickly jabbing the stick in the man's side. The hit doesn't have much force behind it, but it does the job anyways, distracting the man long enough for him to part his sword and jump back once again. Stain had both experience and strength in his corner, not to mention his quirk. Given the motionless, yet conscious hero behind him, he concludes that it must be a paralyzing, inducing quirk. Don't let him cut you. The moment he got me, I couldn't move anymore. Ah, this made things harder. He hears Stains getting more and more frustrated every time they charge at each other. Shadow's senses make sure he's aware of every move and hit coming his way before it's even close, thus giving him ample time to react. Stain was running out of time. Stain is getting desperate, although a cornered animal is usually the most dangerous, so Izuku should probably have seen it coming. The knives flying in his direction at an impossible speed. He barely has time to dodge one before the other embeds itself in his right shoulder, tearing through his flesh with a sickening crunch. His body doesn't drop, though. He waits for it to happen, even expects it to. Yet, he's still standing. Not contact. Maybe another requirement, then. He doesn't get to ponder that new development. Stain charges at him. The moment the knife hits, the man swings his swords, reaching for the left side. It's a hoax. The man wants his right side. Izuku didn't want to wait and find out why. Instead, he elects to flipping backwards, a kick aimed at the man's face. It doesn't make contact directly, but it creates some distance between them. Please, you're bleeding. Just run before he gets you too. Ingenium once again implores. The hero in him not wanting to witness the death of a kid, even if it was a law-evading vigilante. It was proof enough that Stain was wrong about him, yet the anti-hero was still adamant on taking him down. Sirens could suddenly be heard getting closer to their location. He could sense the way Stain's body seemed to stiffen for a moment. He could feel the undergraded anger that was currently being directed at him. The unseen glare aimed his way. This isn't over, Shadow. I'm going to let Ingenium be a warning to society this time, but if you get in my way again, I'll kill you. With that, the man jumps on the same fire escape Izuku was using earlier and disappears into the night. That went well. Shadow can't help but mutter under his breath. The wet huffs that come from behind him startles him, reminding him that he wasn't alone. Turning towards the source of the sound, he crouches in front of Ingenium. The police will be here any minute now, so I'm gonna get out of here, he informs curtly, knowing that if the hero could move right now, he'd probably be trying to arrest him. I don't think his quirk lasts long, so you should be gaining motion back any time now. With that, he takes his leave, not giving the hero a chance to say anything else. Tensei doesn't know what to think anymore. He'd heard about him on the news, the infamous Shadow, the man who has been stringing along both heroes and police officers alike for more than 2 years, Japan's most wanted vigilante. Looking at the form standing in front of him now, acting as a living shield between him and the bloodthirsty killer out to get him, he thinks that they may have misjudged the man. If Shadow could even be considered a man. He was shorter than he expected, voice high and reminiscing of a teenager's growing voice. No trace of menacing criminal most of the media made him out to be. Although the vigilante did have many fans, he was also known to be acting against the law. He could only watch helplessly as this vigilante, this kid, risked his life to protect him, a fully fledged pro-hero. Shame and worry pull in his gut as he lays there, completely helpless to the fight happening in front of his eyes. Shadow moves swiftly, dodging and avoiding hits left and right. He's impressed. He himself barely managed to fight for more than a couple of minutes against the hero killer. Yet this kid was able to fight him head on, not once getting paralyzed. He does get hurt, though. It was bound to happen. Despite this kid's strength, Stain must have years of experience on him. The knife plunges itself into the kid's shoulder, and he doesn't even react, barely flinching at the contact. This alone generates unwanted thoughts in Tensei's mind, thoughts of the society they live in. A society where a kid doesn't flinch away from pain. A society where kids are forced to grow up too soon. His mind immediately flies to his younger brother. How, if not for this child's help, he'd probably be dead, leaving his brother behind, to take on his legacy in his stand. It makes his heart ache, with both gratitude and sadness. He shouldn't have to rely on others to keep him safe. He should be the one protecting others. What kind of hero was he? Sirens blare in the distance, and a silver lining presents itself, a ray of hope in the darkness of the night. Somehow, Thane takes off, alighting to flee instead of facing possible defeat. Immediate relief overwhelms him. It's only now that he feels the gawing pain that erupts from his left side. He's been bleeding for a while now. That wasn't good. That night, he vows to find out who Shadow was underneath the mask. Not to arrest him, nor to take him down, but to thank him. Thank the kid that acted more heroically than most heroes he's encountered throughout his life. And maybe, just maybe, he'll return the favor and try saving him too. After all, he owes the kid his life. He owes him everything. How do you feel? Tsukauchi asked the hero, lying on the hospital bed in front of him, machines beeping and rising in the background. I'm fine, the doctors healed me up. Although they said if Stain had managed to get my back, I would have ended up either paralyzed or worse. Tensei responds, a grim expression on his face. That was a close call. I owe Shadow my life. That kid keeps getting himself into trouble. The detective murmurs, an exasperated look on his features. Tensei is surprised by the casual way the man speaks about Shadow. I'm glad you're okay, though, he says in a louder voice. Did he seem hurt when you saw him? Tensei is silent for a moment, a thoughtful look crossing his features. Not before the fight, no, but he did get hurt during. He took a knife to the shoulder. The detective curses under his breath, something along the lines of, I swear if he... and he better... He can't make out the words, though. You seem to care about him. It's more of a statement than an actual question. He already knows the answer, after all. The silence stretches between them, and Tensei thinks that maybe the detective was just going to ignore him. He's proven wrong a moment later. I think he just needs someone to help guide him. The man states, lowly. He's not your run-of-the-mill criminal. That he's not, Tensei agrees, seriously. The detective quickly finishes taking his statement after that, leaving the room to let his family check on him. Both their thoughts are plagued by a certain masked vigilante that night. Izuku is back on the streets and back fighting. Woo woo, let's go, let's not go, this man needs to rest. Not celebrating, Izuku, please take some... Well, it seems like you... Okay, I'm going to, for the sake of my soul, pretend that he has been resting for 3 weeks now, and he is fully healed, fully recovered, and can get back onto the line of work. He has healed the amount of necessary time that he needs. We all know that that is not true because, again, this is Izuku Midoriya. No matter from what universe, no matter from what fanfiction, he is always reckless. Always. Always. It's literally in his nature. There are some fanfictions where he isn't reckless. Those tend to be the fanfictions where he's adopted by Aizawa from a young age, and, like, they grow up, and Izuku learns to, you know, not be motherfucking reckless. But even in those, he's low-key a little bit reckless. Just a little bit. Just a tad bit. Right? But, like, it's not recklessness in the sense of, like, you know, risking his life recklessness, but recklessness in the sense of, like, okay, he ate too much, he thought he could handle it, he couldn't actually handle it kind of thing. But yeah, Izuku is reckless, and this fanfiction, it's giving Izuku thinks he could handle the whole world and not need any help. Except, we are seeing some development, because Izuku calls for backup. That is new, and his thought is, I promised Shinsou that I would be safe. Meaning, he is learning, so let's celebrate on that. Let's celebrate on that. Clap, clap, celebrating, snap, snap. On to next, Stain. Ugh, okay. I love Stain as a villain, because he's a very interesting villain, and I feel like the main anime underuses him a lot. Specifically, I wanted to see Stain and Uraraka interact. I've always wanted to see that happen, because I wanted Stain's morality to be conflicted with different scenarios. Like, for example, Stain, obviously with this Izuku is like, hey, you're a criminal. What makes you and me different? Right? And Izuku gives that whole speech, which I will talk about Izuku's speech in a second. But I want him to meet people who are becoming heroes. Like, for example, Uraraka. She is a hero, and she wants to be a hero because she wants to earn money for her family. Which, by the way, morally speaking, some people, this is a morally gray area. Some people might say like, oh, that is not a true hero. I say that's a true hero. She's putting aside whatever dreams she has, whatever wants she has for her family, to save her family, right? And in doing so, she's going to save the lives of many people while also helping her family in need, right? It's two birds, one stone kind of situation. And clearly, obviously, with Uraraka's then development, she starts getting this mentality of, okay, the heroes are here for everyone. Who's here for the heroes? Which, by the way, Uraraka's character is so underutilized, and it makes me upset. It breaks my heart that she's so underutilized, because it's the whole, who's there for heroes? I would love to see more of that because she is so underused. She's such a really wonderful character, and I really hate how the main anime has her have a crush on Deku because it literally undermines her whole character. It goes from her having her own personality, like literally it goes from her having her personality of like, hey, I'm sweet, I'm bubbly, I'm also super fierce and determined, and I'm doing all of this for my family, to hee hee, Deku, hi. And then finally in season 6, she goes back to the usual going back into the limelight of like who's there for heroes. But I feel like it would have been more impactful in season 6 if she had been a main focus the whole time, and slowly see Izuku constantly hurt himself, Bakugo get kidnapped, how the media is reacting to all of this, right? Seeing her see all of it and finally piecing together, oh, maybe something's wrong, right? Heroes are there for everybody, but who's there for them, right? So that when she finally hits that big realization of like finally like wording that together, because like beforehand, like she would think about it, but wouldn't necessarily think about it in the sense of like, oh, heroes need help. Who's there for heroes? In the sense of like, my friends are down and all the media could think about is how much we messed up, right? And thinking about the injustice in that, and then finally coming to words of, okay, us heroes are there for the public. They're there for everyone. Who's there for the heroes, right? Finally in season 6, which would make the impact so much more harder and a bunch of more stuff impact a lot harder. I feel like My Hero Academia as a whole tried to grapple in too many plot lines with not enough time. I think its mess is with placement, not placement, but pacing and building. But both of those go hand in hand because building and foundation work goes along with pacing. They didn't pace the story well enough. I'm gonna be honest with you, I think 6 seasons isn't enough for a story that's convoluted. And even if it is, like, let's say, okay, I had to do it in 6 seasons, what they've done so far, I would cut back some of the time things, like some of the focus points, some of the stuff, and I would focus a lot on a bunch of stuff so that every episode is packed filled, right? So that every moment on screen has meaning, has background, has buildment for the future, and it's not just a fight for a fight or whatever, I would cut down a lot and it would be a more impactful show. But if I were to write this, it would very much be a long, lengthy show. Y'all would be happy because you would have a lot of character buildment. Trust me, everything would not happen in 1 year. Hell no. As much as I like the idea of everything happening in 1 year, because it's like, oh my god, I think I would extend it a bit longer than just 1 year. Or maybe I'll keep it a year. Keep the whole, okay, these are literal children. They're literally in their, I'll keep the first year because, like, they're literally children. And then I would also do the aftermath because I'm pretty sure the anime is going to end, and the manga too, with, like, the war arc ending with, like, it ends, the war arc ends, we get probably, maybe, if we're lucky, a little epilogue and that's it. I would like to see the building afterwards, we build this much to it. Let's see the payoff, Let's see the payoff. The epilogue would probably be a whole season. The season epilogue. Okay, now let's talk about Izuku's speech. I want to talk about Izuku's speech. Izuku's speech is so wonderful. I love the whole, like, it doesn't matter why they're being a hero, as long as they're saving people and not putting their own needs and own gain above other people, then they're a hero in my mind. And you know what? That's perfect. That is perfectly how I used to describe a true hero in the My Hero Academia universe, as someone who saves people and doesn't necessarily do it for their own gain in some sense, way, or form. Like, doesn't gain up by putting others down, right? And this is perfect, right? Doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter if they're doing this for fame, if they're doing this for money, if they're doing this for whatever, right? As long as that doesn't get in the way of the fact that they're saving people, as long as they don't put, oh, I'm not going to take that case because it won't elevate my status or whatever, right? As long as that doesn't happen, then they're a true hero, right? They're a true hero. And I love that. I love that so much. It puts to words something that I haven't been able to put to words. So I love that. Now let's talk about two funny little bloopers that happened. So mid-recording this, my mom walks in and is screaming to go outside quickly. And then she goes outside my room and starts screaming about getting the knife. And I'm like, what is happening? Right? And my first thought is, okay, there's an intruder and we need to fight an intruder. All right, okay, all right, I'm prepared. I put on my shoes, I run outside. I get my brother because my mom also told me to get my brother, right? My 13-year-old brother. I'm like, why are we bringing my 13-year-old brother to a fight? But okay. I go outside. No, it's not a fight. The fucking house that we have, or not house, but it's like, what are they called? Whatever, those little house thingies that have like the little, it's a metal house, but it's not a house. And we put it in our driveway so that underneath there's shade. And if it's raining underneath, it won't rain on. Whatever. We got that. We have that, right? And it started moving and flying upwards because the wind speed right now is super immense. And I'm like, okay. So you interrupted me mid-recording. Like, literally, there is a point in the recording, and actually there's not, I erased it, but there was a point in the recording where all of a sudden I'm saying a word, and all of a sudden all you hear is my door slamming open and my mother speaking. It is hilarious. It is funny. On to the second, little cute note. I swear to God, if I keep calling backup and mispronouncing it as backpack, I don't even know. I read backup and my mind says backpack. And it's literally not the first time I've done it in this series. It's literally like the 13th time I've done it. It's annoying. And I always, as soon as I notice that I say backpack, I'm like, backpack. Ugh, backpack. And then I go and delete it. But yeah, that's all the notes I have for today. I cannot wait for the future. And Tensei is in Izuku's side. We got more heroes being in Izuku's side. We love that. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.